Today we're talking about pricing, more importantly, how to set your minimum hourly rate as a freelancer. And to help with that, I've prepared a neat little spreadsheet that will help us figure out what your hourly rate as a freelancer should be. We all want to earn good money with freelancing, right? We want to earn high hourly rates. But at the same time, we are kind of scared to set our rates high because we will maybe scare away potential clients. I don't know. So there's a duality to this, right? At some point, we want to go high, but we are afraid to go high, so we go low. But then the client will not see a perceived value in our services, and we will scare them away by going too low. That can actually happen. So yeah, what's the middle ground? What should be our hourly rate as a freelancer? Well, I prepared this little spreadsheet to help us figure that out. And what we're going to be doing here is we're basically going to be flipping the script here, right? We're not going to set an hourly rate based on like an arbitrary number, I guess. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at it from another direction, meaning we will first figure out how much we would like to earn at the end of the month, right? How much money we would like to have in our wallet by doing some freelancing side gigs. And this spreadsheet will do exactly that. Now, let's dive in. So, what we're doing here is project minimum pricing, right? What we're trying to figure out here is what should be our bare minimum, absolutely the floor when it comes to pricing a project or setting our hourly rates. And we will do that by starting with actually the question I mentioned, right? How much we'd like to earn. Now, as you'll see, this spreadsheet has actually two sections. We have a couple of questions here, and then we have a couple of outcomes here. Your task is to basically answer all of these questions one by one and only edit the yellow fields. Once you do that, you will get a number, which is your suggested minimum hourly rate for your services. And then you'll get a couple of other numbers that are, again, suggestions when it comes to your perceived day rate as a freelancer, or how you should price yourself if you're doing a bigger project, for example, a 3 months long project. But all of this starts with these fields, these yellow fields. So let's start there and let's take a look at this one by one. So first question, how much money would you like to earn at the end of the month, right? How much money would you like to have on your account after doing some freelancing? Be honest here, set a modest but achievable target. So if you're earning maybe 2K as your current job, as your current full-time job, 2,000 euros or $2,000, whatever, set the same number, I guess. That's a good starting point. Let's say for the sake of the argument that we are social media managers. So we want to freelance as social media managers and that we earn $3,000 or euros in a given month, right? So that's our target. That's the same level of income that we would like to achieve as freelancers, right? That's why we want to freelance. We want more freedom, but at the same time, we don't really want to struggle with the finances as well, right? That makes sense. Now, the second question is how many days would you like to work in a given month? At this point, I suggest that you go pretty low. These days are only the work days that you spend working with a client. So if you want to go full-time freelance, in this case, our social media manager example persona wants to go full-time freelance, we'll say we want to spend 16 days working on meaningful projects. Now, this is important. This is just you working for clients, and what's not included here is you looking for clients or updating your portfolio or working on your business, but not working in your business, if that makes sense. Now, the third line here is sick days. Now, we're all gonna be sick at a certain point. We're gonna, take some holidays, whatever, vacation days. What you wanna do here is to account for the possibility of you taking a sick week or just going on holiday with your friends, with your family. Again, it's really up to you, but you do have to calculate that into your rates because as a freelancer, you kind of have to budget for that, not just when it comes to time, but your finances as well. So if you're unsure, just leave it at free, I would say. For a given month, I think that's a good rule of thumb that you will be, sick or either traveling for roughly a couple of days. Next up is an average tax rate. Again, if in your area the taxes are a little bit better, just adjust this, but I would go with 30%. I think that's a very good general rule of thumb when it comes to like generic international tax rates. That's how much we pay as taxes for the services that our neat little governments provide us. And do account for some business expenses such as subscriptions, gas money, accountant, whatever. I would say 10% of your income as a freelancer is, again, a good rule of thumb. And finally, I mentioned that we have to differentiate between working in your business and working on your business, right? So when you're working in your business, you're doing client work. When you're working on your business, you're trying to get clients, you're updating your portfolio, you're creating a new website. But the trick is, as a freelancer, you kind of have to pay yourself in these situations. So what I suggest is that out of your total income to kind of budget for a 10% or 15% downtime and just set aside some money for that. Now, that's basically it. These are the 6 fields that you'll need to edit in order to get to those minimum hourly rates that you should charge your clients. Again, we started out with 3,000, and now you can tell that in order to make 3,000 in a given month, we actually have to get a revenue of 6,000. So it's actually double. And I think that's a good rule of thumb. And you can tell that if our social media manager wants to translate this into an actual hourly rate, that means roughly, $60 or 60 euros. And I think that's a very, very good number. I see a lot of social media managers, freelancers charging this rate. 50 to 100 is very realistic if you know what you're doing. If you're just starting out, well, that's a different story. But again, if you're starting out, maybe 3,000 is not a, realistic goal. So let's take another look at maybe a part-time example. Let's say we have a developer who wants to earn at least 1,000 euros just doing a couple of days of development work on the side. In this case, we will go with 1,000. We just want to work like 4 days a month on client stuff, and then we're just going to budget some stuff on we still have to pay taxes, and we still have to have some business expenses, and maybe budgeting for some slower periods as well. And you can see that our freelancer, our developer in this example, would have to set a day rate of like 400 euros, $400. And the same goes for hourly rates, weekly rates, and so on and so forth. So again, this tool is here to help you to set your minimum prices. And I really have to emphasize minimum here because a lot of freelancers are afraid to actually ask their worth. And that can be problematic because if you go too low, you actually devalue your services and yourself as well. And if you enter the race to the bottom, a lot of clients will actually be suspicious of the quality of the service that you provide. Going low with your prices is not helping you or the market or anyone really. It's a bad idea. So follow this formula, find your minimum hourly rate and stick to your guns. Now, I do have to emphasize minimum here because you can always go higher, right? Once you get a couple of clients, once you get your confidence up, these numbers can only go up. Now, a common question here I get is that, okay, I arrived at a number, maybe I have, 50 euros, and I've never asked for that much money ever. So is 50 euros for me as a developer a realistic number? Well, in order to figure that out, you can do a simple experiment. You can go to Glassdoor and search for your freelancing niche, your freelancing gig. In this example, what we found is a freelance social media manager. Now, you can see that a freelance social media manager working full-time in the US earns about $50,000 to $70,000. So in order to figure out if our number here, which is in this case 50, is in alignment with this, so meaning in order to figure out that our hourly rate as a freelancer is in alignment with market trends, what we have to do here is just do a simple calculation. So for example, we can tell that 50K to 70K, so let's go with 60. So what we have to do here is just divide the 60,000, which is for the whole year, by 12 to get it for a given month. And again, divide it by 160 work hours for the given month. And we arrive at a number of 30. So we'll see that according to Glassdoor, $30 as an hourly rate is much more realistic for a freelance social media manager in the US. In Europe, maybe that's a little bit higher. So what we have to do here is tweak our numbers a little bit and make sure that the number that we got here in the calculator through Glassdoor is in alignment with our targets here. Again, a little bit of discrepancy is fine. So if there's like a difference of $10 on your hourly rate, I think that's perfectly fine. I would suggest that this number should always be higher than the Glassdoor number. And the reason for that is that the Glassdoor number is, I think, oftentimes underreported, and a lot of these extra factors that we talk about here, taxes, business expenses, holidays, whatever, are not really accounted here. So these numbers are, I think, in my experience, coaching and teaching a lot of freelancers, is underreported. So as a general rule of thumb, I suggest it's okay to be a little bit more optimistic here. So that's how you figure out your hourly rates as a freelancer. Again, I encourage you to really go higher than these numbers. Just set these bare minimum number and then start experimenting once you get a couple of clients. Start raising the bar and see how your potential clients react to your new and improved rates. Calculating this number and sticking to your guns when it comes to negotiating with clients is super important, because once you start going lower than your negotiated or agreed upon basic minimum pricing, you will start struggling as a freelancer, right? I see it all the time. A lot of people just agree to the race to the bottom when it comes to their pricing. And what happens is that, of course, their clients will be happy to pay less, but after a while they will struggle because they can't pay the bills, they can't afford a new equipment, and they can't afford to have a couple of sick days, and they enter into this vicious cycle of basically a downward spiral of not getting enough work, but even when they're working, they're not getting paid enough, and they are just struggling to make ends meet. So this tool, this spreadsheet, is your guaranteed minimum floor of avoiding those scenarios, right? So I encourage you to always, always, always stick to the numbers that you got here. Now, this spreadsheet is free to download, so go down to the descriptions to find your link. And when you open the Google Sheet document, what you need to do is just to make a copy of this document when you are logged into your Google account, in order for you to be able to edit this document and get your project minimum pricing. That's it for today. Have a great one.